If you are on a weight loss journey, then you can either click off this video and learn these 7 lessons the hard way, or you can stay on this video, learn these 7 lessons now, and fast track your way to success. If you're new here, hey, I'm Healthy Emmie. I'm a nutritionist, a weight loss specialist, and the creator of the Slim on Starch program. In this program, I've helped about 4,000 people release weight on a plant-based diet. I've got it down to a science. If you're interested in learning about that, you can click the link in the down bar. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing 7 secrets that my clients have learned on their journey. I went into the support group that my clients participate in, and I searched the word learn to see what it is that my clients have learned on their journey. And there were so many nuggets of wisdom in there. I plucked out 7 and I'm sharing them with you today. Lesson number 1 comes from my client, Michelle, who said, "These meals have helped me lose the weight for good. I eat big meals. I mean, really big. They keep you full for hours so that you can enjoy life's primary foods. I used to be afraid of big portions until I learned about calorie density." Which brings us to lesson number 1. You can't be afraid to eat big. I've been putting up some Instagram reels showing the difference in volume when it comes to the meals that we eat on the SOS program versus what a standard American diet looks like. And because we're eating foods that are lower in calories but higher in volume, we're going to eat portions that are larger than what we used to eat and what other people are eating. And I think this is the big thing for people, is that they are comparing their portion sizes to other people's portion sizes and saying, that person eats like a bird, that person eats so little, why do I need to eat so much? I have way too big of an appetite, I'm eating way too much food, there's no way I'm going to release weight while doing this. And if we have that mentality, and if we're basing how much our body needs based on what other people with completely different circumstances and a completely different diet, and that we have truly no idea what they're actually doing, are quote unquote doing, we're never gonna find success, not just in food, but in most of the things that we do. Comparison is the thief of joy. And something that I learned in my track running days was that if you ever were to look to the side or look behind you to see where's everybody else in the lanes, it would take 3 seconds off of your time, which is an absolute eternity when it comes to racing and track. Looking at where everybody else is just going to slow you down. So when it comes to your portion sizes, we're not going to look at what everyone else is doing. We're going to tune into our body's hunger fullness cues. And the reality is this: when we eat whole, real plant foods, we're gonna need to eat bigger portions than we would eat on a standard American diet, and bigger than what everybody else is eating on a standard American diet, simply because the foods are higher in volume and lower in calories in comparison to processed food. Now, I'll notice something else that happens is individuals will eat larger portions on a whole food plant-based diet, and they'll be a scale monkey. So they'll eat a larger meal of potatoes, rice, beans, leafy greens, broccoli, Brussels sprouts. It'll be a gorgeous meal for their dinner meal. And then they'll step on the scale the next day, and the number on the scale is going to be up. It'll be up a pound or 2, and they'll say, this diet doesn't work. What the heck is going on here? My weight is up. What's actually going on is there's more food in transit. Your glycogen stores are also increased, which is something that we could chat about. But the big thing here is you're eating a lot more food than you were beforehand, and there's simply more food in transit. There's more fecal matter as well. At any time, we have 5 to 20 pounds of fecal matter in our bodies. And if you're eating more food with more fiber and more roughage, you're gonna have more bowel movements, you're gonna have more fecal matter. That's gonna be more weight in you, but it's not fat. So be fearless when it comes to your portion sizes and trust your body's wisdom. If you truly feel that you need more food, honor it, because if you don't eat when you're hungry, you're not going to stop when you're full. This lesson often gets learned the hard way by individuals that eat small portions, and they're eating small portions of calorie dilute food, which leads to being in a massive calorie deficit, and then they end up overeating because they haven't eaten enough. So that is something that we want to avoid. Lesson number 2 comes from my client, Leslie, who says, just completed stage 2.1 of the program, which was all about weight. I learned that my weight will naturally fall to my perfect set point range as I get healthier through food. And we will sum that up through lesson number 2, stay out of your body's way. As I talk about in the Slim on Starch program, our body has a sort of range of weights that it wants to live between and be perfectly healthy. And this range of weights is not going to put you into the overweight category. It's not going to put you in a place where you're holding on to more body weight than your body truly needs. Your body is not going to be designed to hold on to excess fat stores. Your body wants to relieve you of those fat stores. It wants to release that weight. It wants to be in a healthy place where it has a healthy amount of body fat. And in order to allow our bodies to do that, we need to eat the food that nature intended for us to eat, whole, real, natural foods. And when we do that, our body is going to fall exactly where nature intended for it to be, which is in a healthy weight range. It's a healthy place for your body. When somebody is outside of where their body is meant to be, it looks off and it feels off for the individual. When somebody's at a weight that's too low and when somebody's at a weight that's too high, it's something that we can detect and see from an outside perspective, and it's something internally that the person will experience. They'll feel heavy, they'll feel weighed down, or if they're at a weight that's too low, they'll feel lethargic, they won't have energy, they'll be hyperfixated on food. So the body knows exactly where it wants to be, and so long as we provide it with whole, real, natural foods, it's gonna end up there. The reason why the lesson is you have to stay out of your body's way is because it's not your job, your responsibility, or even within your power to be able to choose a weight that you wanna be at and then you fall to it. That's not the way that it's gonna go. You can't just pluck a number out of a hat and say, that's the number that I wanna get to. Nature is gonna decide that one for you. Your genetics are gonna design that one for you. And so long as you feed your body with all real, whole, natural, slim on starch foods, your body's gonna land exactly where it's supposed to. Stay out of your body's way. Expectations are the root of all despair. So if we come into this with the expectation of, I'm gonna be at this number by this date, well now we're either gonna meet that expectation and feel this sort of relief if we meet it, or we're gonna be let down because we didn't meet that expectation. So what if instead we come in with this blank slate with curiosity and optimism about where our body's gonna land, in faith and trust that our body is going to land in a healthy place, and then we let our body do that. We don't have to micromanage and end up frustrated and rushing ourselves through this journey. Next lesson comes from my client Kim, who says, the aha moment for her was the power of hyper-palatable food in all its forms. Before SOS, I understood that none of us can stop at a Pringle. It tastes too good and that taste takes over the drive to keep eating. But the extension of that has blown my mind. I'm finding that sweet spot of enjoying the taste and texture of food without setting it up to be an explosion of a hyper-palatable experience every time. It's kind of like the difference between doing heroin or taking a beautiful walk through the redwoods, or a one-night stand versus my wonderful husband of 20 years. That'll lead us to lesson number 3, which is don't mess with non-SOS. This reminds me of a quote from one of my favorite books, which is Russell Brand's Recovery. This is a quote that I find myself reading to clients often on our group calls. This is when Russell was tempted, or whenever he feels tempted to relapse and to give in to using drugs or alcohol or sex or gambling, whatever it is, to get a high. He goes, do I want to peruse this avenue, this boulevard lined with trees, apple laden with old temptation? Is this gonna be good for me? Or should I observe my breath, slow down, pick up the phone, and share with somebody I trust that my mind, my naughty little mind, was about to fling my life off of a cliff for 15 minutes of mild amusement? Drops the mic, right? So do we want to do that? Do we want to give into the power that those non-SOS foods have? You see that food and you can say, I can give away all my power to that food and I can go down that path and have this turn into a day where I feel sick and bloated and gross at the end of the day. Or I can say no to that so that I can say yes to myself and just steer clear of those foods. Because for many people, and if you're one of these people, it's okay, just know yourself and know that this is the type of person that you are. And the more you know yourself, the more you'll be able to navigate these situations. Know that you might be the type of person where one bite is too many and 1,000 is never enough. And it's honestly easier to not have it at all than it is to have one. It's like the alcoholic can't just have one drink. It just doesn't happen. And it might be the case with you and those hyper-palatable foods. And if that's the case, that's okay. You know it, accepting of yourself for it, and use your knowledge of yourself to your advantage to keep you on a path that feels aligned for you and is aligned with the person that you want to be. The next aha comes from my client Kindle, who said, such a powerful question. My aha moment is quite similar. I put so much emotion behind fitting into social situations with food and drink. I'm so thankful to be cutting away from this strong bond. It's liberating being with others and realizing I don't have to conform to their behavior, nor do I need to justify my actions. I love using zero shame with this. I'm way happier. So the way that I would sum up this lesson is, no is a full sentence. This is something that's borrowed from Alcoholics Anonymous. When somebody offers you something, you can just say no. You can say no, thank you. You don't need to justify your actions. You don't need to say yes. You don't need to blend in. It's okay that you do things differently. As Dr. Lyle says, you can get along without going along. When you go meet somebody for coffee, one of you orders coffee, one of you orders tea. When two friends that both drink coffee go to coffee, one orders with whole milk, one orders with almond milk, the other one gets a shot of espresso, the other one gets a little bit of hazelnut, the other one puts cream in their coffee, the other one doesn't put any sugar in. Who cares if the substance is different? It's about being together. And I understand that for many people, food is the centerpiece for so many of the things that we do. How can we expand those relationships? How can we find new relations and build new relationships and expand our social circle to find individuals that share hobbies and passions and interests that we have outside of food? What are our hobbies, passions, and interests outside of food? This is why in the Slim on Starch program, we have an entire module dedicated to finding what we call your primary foods, which are the things outside of food that you're passionate about that bring you joy. So when it comes to these social situations, find the common ground and find things to talk about outside of food. And remind yourself that no is a full sentence. When somebody offers you a drink or a piece of cake or a cookie or chips or whatever it is, you can say no thank you. You don't have to explain yourself. And if they ask why, you can, as Dr. Lyle says, kick the rock down the road and say, oh, I'm just trying this thing out. I'll probably be eating those chips in a month, but for now I'm just not feeling it. But count me in a month from now, I'll be having it then. Kick the rock down the road. At this point, for me personally, people know that I am the way I am. But when I first started this lifestyle, people didn't know, and it felt kind of funny. And so I have been there. I've been in that position where people knew me to eat a certain way for a very long time, and then I started eating differently. And I remember feeling kind of funny about it, but time really helps. It's been about 10 years now, so people know that this is the way that I eat because I've been consistent over this past decade, and it's not even a question anymore. Next lesson is coming from Kim again. I didn't even realize that Kim had 2 on this list. She said, feeling satiated truly helps me not eat junk, and eating whenever I'm hungry is just the right thing to do. Lesson number 5, extreme hunger leads to uh-oh. You know what your uh-oh is. For many people, the uh-oh is the actions that shall not be named. Many times people experience intense cravings and desires to eat foods that aren't aligned with the program simply because they just haven't eaten enough food. You see, humans are designed so that we will avoid famine, and we will do anything so that if a famine does happen, we're gonna make sure we have enough fat stores on us. So if the body is not getting in enough calories, the body is gonna send the signal to the brain that, hey, we're not getting enough calories, so go out and find as much food as you can to prepare for this famine. This is why when you get super hungry, you're like, I would eat literally anything because I am so hungry now. I would eat this table. I'm so hungry. That's the body desperately holding on for dear life to try to keep you from dying because you haven't eaten enough. So we need to ensure that when you're hungry, you eat, and you eat SOS foods. The truth of the matter, honest to goodness, when you're fueled up on SOS foods, you don't want that junk anymore. And this is why I'll have clients, when they want to eat junk food, have them eat an SOS food meal beforehand. And after they do that, they say, actually, I don't really want it anymore. The body was just telling you that it needed food, and it was panicking and asking for the highest calorie food in the environment. So stay fed, stay fueled, so that we don't have that big uh-oh situation. When you are hungry, you must honor it. If you deny your hunger, you're just setting yourself up for a binge. Next lesson coming from my client, Val. Hi everyone, I'm Val. I just finished stage 1.1 of the SOS program. I learned about the extinction curve. I'm determined to go all in and eliminate my desire for foods that are not serving me at this time. So I talk about the extinction curve in the SOS program, and I go in depth about the options that you have if you want to be somebody who has success with completely eliminating your cravings for the long term. I have written out the extinction curve. It's been so long since I've had certain foods that the brain has forgotten that those foods even exist. Remember when you were in elementary school, you could name the capitals of all of the states, you could name the presidents, you could name the parts of a cell wall and the parts of an animal cell versus a plant cell. We could do all that because we were studying all of that at that time, but we stopped using that part of our brain, so that part of our brain died out, and where those neural pathways they haven't been lit up in decades, we don't remember any of that stuff anymore. The same thing is gonna happen with food. When you stop eating a certain food for long enough, that part of your brain that remembers what that tasted like and what that sensation was like, it dies out, and you're not gonna crave those foods anymore because you're not reinforcing that neural pathway. You are able to get to a point where your body's not gonna ask for those foods anymore, and you're not gonna crave them. They're not gonna be what you think about all the time because it's just been so long since you've had them. So the lesson to be learned here is abstinence leads to extinction. But if you dip back into those foods, we're reinforcing that neural pathway. We're gonna light it back up again. If you're completely abstinent though, then those neural pathways are gonna die out and you're gonna stop craving those foods. And it doesn't mean that you have to be completely abstinent. With everything that I talk about, I can never and will never force you to do anything. My job is to present to you the options that you have and what will happen if you take those options. And I'm just telling you, if you're abstinent, those cravings are going to become extinct, which is, I love living this way. The thoughts of eating certain foods don't randomly pop up in my mind. They're not what I think about all day long because it's been so long, like I said, nearly a decade and longer for a lot of different foods. When I was in high school, every year for Lent, I would give something up and then I'd just give it up for the rest of my life. So I gave up soda, and then I gave up fast food, and then I gave up Dunkin' Donuts. But every year I would give something up and then I just gave it up forever. So I haven't had a soda since 2010. I haven't had a soda, or 2009, in 15 years. I don't crave soda anymore. I don't look at it and say, oh my God, I need one of those so badly. It's been so long since I've had one because I've just been abstinent. And the final lesson comes from Amalia. She says, slim on starch is a lifestyle, not a fad. Drops the mic. This is why I turned the Slim on Starch program into a lifetime program and not just a 6-week program. The way that I've designed it now is clients can stay in for as long as they can stay in for the rest of their life if they want to, and they'll get new modules every week. Because this is not just, all right, I'm gonna do this diet to get the weight off and then I'll go back to what I was doing beforehand. Why would we change something and then regress back into old patterns? The purpose of this is to get us back to our natural state of being, our natural weight, the way that nature intended for us to be, so that we can maximize our life experience. This is not like the magic eraser to erase our mistakes and then go back to the way that we were. We're moving forward and we're progressing and we're evolving into the version of ourselves that we were always meant to be. We're moving forward here and we're laying the groundwork for a new lifestyle. And that lifestyle is one where the sun shines brighter, the chirp of the birds is louder, the hug of a loved one is warmer. You experience life on a higher level where you're more in tune with it because your brain's not being hijacked by food. You're not fogged up by food. You're not weighed down by what's going on with you physically or mentally or emotionally. You feel free and you float through life with more grace. This is not a fad crash diet. And if you've made it to this point of the video, then you are definitely a dedicated one, and SOS is for life. So if you made it to this point of the video, I want you to comment for life, because you're a lifer. And if you're interested in joining the Slim on Starch program, you can click the link in the down bar. The next video on the screen is going to be the interview with my client who said lesson number 4, Kindle. Kindle was the one that learned that she doesn't have to do what everybody else is doing. And she has a beautiful interview on my channel. So that's gonna be next on the screen. You're gonna absolutely love it. It's gonna inspire you. And I'll see you there. I love you, honeys. I'll see you in that video.